You ever been haunted by a stranger? Well, I have. And let me tell you, it's terrifying. Usually, it'd be a relief. But today, the solitude felt oppressive, like the silence was amplifying all the unsettling sounds around me. The old Victorian house I lived in was groaning, settling, sighing. Each creak of the floorboard, each moan of the wind seemed to carry a whisper of something sinister. It was locked. That was weird. I wasn't sure why I remembered closing it, but I distinctly remembered doing so. My rational mind screamed at me to run, to get out of there, but my feet were rooted to the spot. It sounded like nails on a chalkboard, like someone was tearing their fingernails down the length of a steel frame. My heart pounded against my ribs, threatening to burst out of my chest. I could feel the terror coiling in my stomach, constricting my insides. My breaths came out in ragged gasps. My hands trembled, clammy and weak. There was something in that room, and it wanted out. What was it? The silence that followed was deafening. I stood there frozen, unsure of what to do next. I slowly turned my head towards the door, and that's when I saw it. As I turned the knob, it creaked open, revealing the darkness that lay beyond. My eyes struggled to pierce the gloom, but as they adjusted, I saw it. Sitting in the middle of the room was a rocking chair gently swaying back and forth as if someone had just risen from it and stepped out. Trapped in that room with a possessed chair, I felt a surge of helplessness wash over me. I needed to get out of there. It was as if the chair itself was communicating with me, trying to tell me something. Suddenly, the scratching stopped. The silence was deafening. "Help me," it rasped. "Let me out." Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and its mouth was twisted into a silent scream. It reached out to me, its fingers long and skeletal. "Help me," it rasped again, and then it lunged. The chair began to rock faster, its glow intensifying until it was blinding. I cried out, shielding my eyes. When I dared to peek through my fingers, I saw a figure emerging from the chair. I started to pace, my footsteps echoing in the silence. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but the voice grew louder, more insistent. It was coming from the chair. "Help me," it rasped, the voice like nails scraping down a chalkboard. "Help me." My eyes never leaving the chair. It continued to glow, pulsing like a heartbeat, and I could swear it was getting brighter. My blood ran cold. There was no one in the chair, yet it was moving on its own. A sliver of light peeked out from under the door, a faint glow that seemed to pulse with an eerie rhythm. It was as if something was stirring on the other side, preparing to make its move. My heart hammered against my ribs, threatening to beat its way out of my chest. Should I break the stalemate and open the door or call for help? But what if it was too late for that? What if whatever was on the other side had already slipped in? It was coming from the chair. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, beckoning me to come closer. Curiosity, morbid and overwhelming, compelled me forward. As I stepped into the room, the door slammed shut behind me with a resounding boom. I jumped, startled by the sudden noise, and turned to try and open the door, but it was no use. It was locked. A wild animal, maybe a desperate stray cat or dog seeking shelter. But no, this was bigger, stronger than any animal I knew. It was coming from the other side of the door. Tap, tap, tap. My blood ran cold. I recognized that sound. It was the same sound I'd heard earlier that day, the sound of someone knocking on the wall. But now it was closer, right on the other side of the door, and it was a signal of something terrible about to happen. I had to stay calm. There had to be an explanation for this. Maybe it was just some trick of the light. But as I turned back to the rocking chair, my blood ran cold. It wasn't a trick of the light. The glow emanating from the chair was growing brighter, taking on a malevolent, almost otherworldly hue. Frowning, I tried the handle again. Still locked. It wasn't making any sense. With each knock, the image of a pale, emaciated face pressed against the wood burned into my mind. eyes hollowed and dark, reaching out to me from the other side, begging to be let in. Tap, tap, tap. My terror reached a crescendo. This was beyond a prank, beyond the realms of rational explanation. This was evil, pure, and simple. I tried to push the door open, but it wouldn't budge. It was like there was something blocking it from the other side. I stood there paralyzed, unsure of what to do next. Should I run? Call the police? Or just stand there and hope whatever was in that room would go away? My mind was a cacophony of thoughts, each one more panicked than the last. Flight or fight, my primal instinct screamed at me to run, to escape the impending doom that I could feel seeping through the cracks in the door. But my feet were glued to the ground, my body paralyzed by fear. All I could do was stand there and listen as the tapping grew louder, more insistent, as if whoever was on the other side was growing impatient. Frustrated, I leaned against the door, trying to push it open. And that's when I heard it again, the scratching. But now it was coming from the other side of the door. Whatever was in that room was trying to get out. This was one of those days where being alive felt like a mistake. The air hung heavy with humidity, and my skin prickled with the awareness that someone was watching me. From the moment I'd opened my eyes that morning, I'd had this sense of dread. Then it became more insistent, a rhythmic scratching as if someone was trying to dig through the wood, as if there was something on the other side they desperately wanted to reach. It was coming from the room at the end of the hallway, the one we used for storage. I hadn't opened that door in months. It was filled with boxes of memories and cobwebs, stuff I had no intention of looking at again. It was like opening a present whose wrapping paper was already torn and revealing something you knew you didn't want to see. So I grabbed an old baseball bat that I used as a walking stick these days and headed towards the room. As I approached the door, the scratching intensified. Then abruptly it stopped. I froze, listening intently. Silence. Had I imagined it? Was it the house just playing tricks on me? My gut was churning with foreboding, and I couldn't shake off this feeling, not even after chugging down a pot of coffee. I was alone in the house. My wife, bless her soul, was away visiting her sick mother, which meant I had the entire property to myself. And then there was the scratching. At first, it was faint, just a light tapping sound, like someone was tentatively knocking on the wall. Curiosity got the better of me. I mean, what was I so afraid of? Just some mice, right? Taking a deep breath, I reached out to open the door. Adrenaline surged through my veins, turning my blood to ice water. The scratching grew more frantic, more desperate, accompanied by a low, guttural growl. Then suddenly, the growling stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that was more terrifying than the commotion moments before. That's when I heard it, a slow, deliberate tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. Adrenaline surged through my veins, jolting me back to reality. Then, as suddenly as it began, the tapping stopped. As these thoughts raced through my mind, I felt a cold breeze against my neck, raising goosebumps on my skin. With trembling hands, I reached out to grab the doorknob. It was ice cold, sending shivers down my spine. Then I saw it again, that faint glow, and I realized it wasn't coming from outside. Panic threatened to consume me, but I forced it down. I tried the door again, but it was still locked. As I paced, I noticed something else. The scratching sounds I'd heard earlier, they weren't coming from the walls. They were coming from the chair. Then I heard it again, a soft, raspy voice whispering my name. Terror gripped me. I stumbled back, my eyes wide with fear. The voice continued, growing stronger, more urgent. It was tall and emaciated, its skin stretched tight over its bones.